on English, right? We said it on English. Welcome everybody. I'd like to welcome you in front of OASA NGO. Here, topic of today is, today's event is social entrepreneurship in the world of NGO, in non-profit world. And we have a very special guest for today to speak. But before I introduce Jelena, I will just share a few informations, also the agenda for today. But before this agenda, let me just mention that this event is the part of project Bridge to Success, which is financed by Ministry of Demographics, Family, Youth and Social Policy and co-financed by City of Zagreb. And today we'll keep it simple and effective. We'll have presentation for about approximately 60 minutes. And after that, it will be enough time for Q&A. Also, for those of you watching online, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. You can post your questions in comments. After that, we will have a short presentation about few of OASA's projects. And some of that we are doing, some of that this event is part of. After that, we'll use the opportunity to hand out the certificates to our participants on the recent Bridge to Success project. I see that not everybody could come from this, but we'll give to those who came at least in hand to congratulate them. And last but not the least is the tasting workshop that we will have, and it is only meant for those who are here. Some healthy vegan snacks are prepared by OASA Joyful Kitchen team for us to taste and enjoy ourselves. And back to our guest speaker, Jelena Anđelić, who is project manager in ACT Group, a group that is actually a community of innovators, social entrepreneurs, and impact business promoters. She is an expert in social economy and civil society, and she is interested in social innovation, partnership development, and networking, and is actively involved in the work of various national, regional, European networks that are dealing with social economy, work integration, civil society development, and social innovation. With 8 years of managerial experience, she programmed, implemented, and monitored European bilateral and other projects in Serbia and West Balkans on the topics of social economy, employment, social protection, and networking. So without further delay, let us warmly welcome Jelena with applause. And for those of you online, you can click the like button. Thank you, Jelena.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope this is working. Someone nod. Yes, thank you. As you just heard, my name is Jelena. My thing is social economy, and I hope that I will use this time effectively today to transfer some of my motivation and some of potentials from all of the actors who can actually have in social economy market or ecosystem. So Branko's agenda sounded much better than mine. Mine is this. We did a small introduction on the beginning, which is informal. So for the purpose of the streaming, we will just go to our content. So social entrepreneurship, do we need a definition? We have social entrepreneurship ecosystem, who is there with us, support for social entrepreneurs, financial, non-financial support, or both, social impact, why we need it and how we measure it, and some conclusions and remarks. In 2 different time slots, there will be a place or space for your questions or comments. So just maybe raise a hand and wait for Branko to give you a mic, so it will be heard everywhere. So social enterprises, as we said, definition is there. And it's quite a little bit different. I understood that it's not your first time to hear about this topic, but definition still, even for those who it's like 100 times to hear about it, definition seems to be something that we always find a way to debate about. Two things can be like just put like this. We have EU definition, who is really broad and saying the social enterprises are those who are putting social goals before the commercial activity. They're actually the reason why you are doing a commercial activity. Those who reinvest their profits they earn on the market, and those who are organized in a way which those where governmental structure is actually reflecting participative management and goals of the enterprise itself. Social enterprises in Croatia, where we are now, is defined in one umbrella policy document. It would be Strategy for Development of Social Entrepreneurship, and it said that this social entrepreneurship is defined as a part of broader ecosystem that includes entities primarily aimed at meeting social goals and all of those characterized by participative management and approach. Why we like so much social enterprise and why we are talking about it maybe from 18th or 19th century and still talking now and talking in more countries and talking even more in the time of pandemics. We are all the time dealing with different social challenges and risks, and when we put in this context global challenges and risk as measured for year 2019, and we can all just assume that for 2020 the situation will be much worse. So for 2019, some major global risks were identified. People who are actually investigating and researching it say that the biggest global challenge is forced and prolonged migration and refugee situation. Those are also deep social instability, unemployment or underemployment, gaps or us not being successful enough in meeting different challenges coming from environmental are defined also as one of those. So this is like this would be like a picture presenting the work of many researchers defining social challenges of today. Why I'm showing this to you? Because we want to search for a link. Why are social enterprises so important in this world, and how are main problems reflected in our missions? So, what we find and like to exercise with, especially with young people, and you are very young today, all of you, so thank you for coming such a big number. So what we are always trying to identify is our answers to those challenges. It seems to me that, for example, that global sustainability goals are maybe let's say the most comprehensive response to the challenges, and we are all finding a way to identify with some of those and to identify with some challenges and problem solving or solutions within these topics. For example, me and the organization that I'm working in identified with goal 8, which would be dignified work and economic growth. It also covers some social aspects of it, because dignified work means actually what it means, and it covers our dignity in the employment. Different organizations, different social enterprises doing business in Croatia or wider can identify with something different, but since we are a community that support business endeavors and impact businesses, we identified with 8. Why I mentioned those the biggest global challenges of the world is because we have 3 main pillars how we develop and what's the essence of social entrepreneurship in the world. So we do not exist without economic activity. We're doing our businesses in the market. We cannot disregard market trends and needs of the customers because we rely on them. We address environmental challenges, and it's becoming bigger and bigger all the time. Okay, so it is environment, and we have social goals. 3 main pillars of development of social entrepreneurship in the world, and also some important data that I hope that would motivate you is that, for example, in the last year, every 5th entrepreneur in the European Union was social entrepreneur. So it's a fast-growing market, and I assume that there are also fast-growing support systems, and more and more people gathered around the idea, so we are making this mass critical enough to make a change. We cannot speak about anything without putting ourselves in the context of ecosystem where we are doing our business, where we exist. Some of you are NGOs, some of you are institutions, some of you are young enough to think about your place in this ecosystem. So about this topic, this would be ecosystem where you maybe find yourself. So I would like to go through some of them, but I know that you recognize them all. So it was my intention to put public institutions here, not on more visible place, because we need to motivate ourselves. So we have different kinds of businesses. We have social businesses, we have traditional businesses, we have support organizations, we have public mechanisms, we have funding, we have academia and research are very important to support us in our work. We have key customers, key media channels. We have NGOs with market activity and traditional NGOs who are not doing anything on the market, but they're all part of the ecosystem of supporting social entrepreneurship. And maybe this ecosystem is even more complicated than some other ecosystems when you are doing traditional business and you're usually going from your source to your customers, and you have 2 or 3 channels to do that. This ecosystem is quite more complex, and that makes our work to be even more meaningful and important because we all affect each other. For this stage, I wanted to go through some practices with you just to get an overview or maybe inspiration from the very good practices from Croatia, from European Union, from Western Balkan region about what they are doing. So I will not tell the story of each practice. I will give you a few basic information, but you can Google it and find out everything about that later. But there are different businesses, different ideas, and they are great. So, Joyful Kitchen Zagreb, the first. Who knows why this is our first example? I'm kidding, but you're very well familiar and they're very well known, and they're doing a great job here in Zagreb. So, they're our hosts for today. So, I'm just saying thank you for organizing and putting us all together, and keep up. You're great. So, there are some quite different examples from Europe. We have a fabric in Berlin, which is like completely different because it is a community, it is a neighborhood, it is an alternative culture, alternative everything. Like there are a few places like that in Europe, but they are actually self-sustainable, and that's why they are important for us. Another important thing about them is that it is a grassroots initiative, and it's really important for young people to know that you can, from like really, really small targeted actions, make something that's huge or the biggest in the country as a grassroots initiative. Crafts from Tuzla, they started as post-war response in Tuzla in Bosnia, and now they're growing and they're actually mainly selling abroad and leading a really good and really successful online shop. So it is something that we see we see this example like crafts and some things made with traditional motifs, but they managed to go really big, and they're digitalized now very much. That's why I'm mentioned this as a way of business. It's not going so digital usually. This would be Milky Way in Amsterdam. Why it's really important? Because you're young, and if you go to Amsterdam, you must visit this place. This is also from a grassroots initiative. It's NGO leading the biggest club in Amsterdam, music events mostly, but it's the biggest one. It's really successful, and they even managed to, with their own funds, fund projects, smaller projects in the community. So it's a really successful artistic project. Dialogue in the Dark, Vienna. I encourage you to search for more ideas like this. My heart lies in social services and providing access to services of all vulnerable groups. So any kind of activity that would raise awareness or bring more financial sustainability to NGOs providing social services, I just love them. You know for Miret Dugaresa, of course you know for them. They are great endeavor, I think so, and they're very innovative. Why I think they're important for this moment now, they innovate all the time and they are thinking beyond their business models. They always try something new, they test it, they validate it, they put it again on the market. So it's really agile structure as they're functioning, really great product also, ecological product. This one I'm personally attached to, one of the first social enterprises from Belgrade, from Serbia. So I would say they have great business model because they don't buy the resources. The material from which they are making these bags, they get them from the companies because it's a waste. So it's a great saving costs. It's such a wonderful example. And they again sell that to that same companies. Ideal. Romani Design Budimpešta, I love them because this is one successful Roma story. The designer is giving educational support and other kind of support integration to Roma children in Budapest. So it's really tackling the problem beyond their own business. So they are really let's say, a bit even more expensive fashion. It's not really high street, but they reinvest in social goals and they selected Roma children as their target group. So it's also a way to be actor in social businesses. Magda's Beach, I don't know if you know for that, the first hotel established and ran by migrants in Vienna, completely monitored by the touristic community of Vienna, which is really experienced body, but the hotel is run by migrants on a daily basis and it functions really good. This is something, well, similar, it's Red Fabric in Switzerland, very similar to their like alternative culture projects and youth groups. You know about Sfera Vizija Zagreb. I personally love their project and I thought it must be here because they're also involving, they're employing blind people. So they have that side of the social business covered by the employment. ACT Group established a few social enterprises. I'm happy to work with all of them now because they're part of our portfolio. It's one way of supporting social businesses nowadays. So Social Cooperative Humana Nova, it's something that you probably all saw in some parts of Croatia. It's also employing the people with disabilities, but also covering environmental goals. Similar thing with ACT Print Lab, also one of the enterprises ACT Group established, and I love their products. Anyway. If there are any kind of comments or questions on this part, you can just raise your hand or we will continue to other parts of presentation. Feel free to, yes, ask or comment what you want, what you need to hear more about. We have like, yeah, maybe time to address some specific questions if there are some. And yes, please. feel free to, I mean, I will take it as a personal compliment if you ask questions, so I'm like someone that you like to talk to, so no. No. No, okay. I will just continue with the second part of the presentation. We are again back to our ecosystem because we, together with colleagues from OASA, was just thinking on which topic we should focus today, because this really sector is huge and there are a lot of things that can be done through trainings, workshops, peer-to-peer reviews, name it. So we decided to give you some practical inputs and information about things that you need if you are going into social entrepreneurship, enterprise, to establish, to lead, to maybe support in some way. So we are back to our ecosystem, and we need to know key elements of the ecosystem. For those coming from the faculty and interested in policies, this is really important overview, because policy framework for social enterprise can be put in this very center of the concept when we are speaking about ecosystems. So what I'm curious to know is this: we have a strategy that is expiring this year, so we're all looking forward to more enabling, more inclusive framework that the policymakers and decision makers in Croatia will come to in the next period. So we hope, this is really important when you are not on the very beginning, but for the creating supporting mechanism for those who are actually doing the social enterprise endeavor, going into it. It's really important to be very well aware of the policy framework and how other actors are finding their way and their roles in this framework. This would be like one really important picture for all of us to understand how is financial and non-financial support put in the context of your work as a future social enterprise. So you will see that you can rise with this line up, and together with the whole ecosystem is rising. So we started with, as an ecosystem, we started with smaller grants, with education, with less target, awareness raising trainings and stuff. And then we grow. There are some new, we follow the trends. They were like hubs, they were like accelerators, incubators, everything that's covering the market of the social economy. The whole sector was rising. And where is it now? I mean, this is these dots, but not circles, are just saying where we are starting to be. This is a place when our sector is big enough to go to important funding instruments, which are like not for just established social enterprises. If you just establish one now, you can just look at some support that's coming from grants, that's coming from social banking, or as a small range grants, as a small range loans support system like that. But if we want our sector to grow, we need all kind of supporters. We need supporters who will support startups among NGO world and among social enterprises. We need those who will support some acceleration, and after just big endeavors. They are, for example, in Feels Good Social Impact Investment Fund and similar funds, which requires really good economic managerial skills and quite ambitious business plan. So I can tell something about the ways we understood, just a second, the ways we as an ACT group understood, this is not a commercial, this is my, just my experience from my, really, what I lived through. What we as an ACT group try to establish are just matching, and what I think is important is just matching the funds and support that's coming from both financial and non-financial side of the supporters. Because usually when you are just working within an NGO system and you want to establish a business, you certainly have some skills. You certainly know that you want to reach some impact, that you want to take care of vulnerable groups, that you want to tackle environmental issues. But what you don't know usually is how to lead a business. And since you're going on the market and not on the NGO calls, you will be validated there, and the market can be a really tough place to be. So what we understood is really important to have like matched financial with non-financial support that will accelerate the growth of social enterprises, as we call it, impact businesses. So, and what's coming to us as feedback, and I'm using this opportunity to ask you not to do that, is that people are usually seeking only for financial support. While they are maybe refusing or neglecting non-financial support because it takes, you need to invest time and you need to invest all of your resources and to learn from some experiences, but it's usually something that those are skills and competencies that every enterprise needs to reach, especially in a startup and in the startup phase. So take it as an advice from me. I supported many of them, and especially in Western Balkan 6, and I need a non-financial support and tailor-made programs for support, especially young people, are actually essential. Money and capital can be found much easier than a good mentor. How are we going to assess that ecosystem and our support? We used some tools that actually gave us a foundation to ask questions, and when we ask a question, we will see if we are where we want to be. So, about access to finances, which is usually the first the question of all, yes, is if the market of finance supporters market is mapped and visible. Do we know who can support us? If we don't, it's not. Well, we need to dig deeper. Social enterprises are seeking for funding in line with the development phase of the business or not. Social enterprises that are just to be established cannot have a support that's actually not matching their needs on the beginning, and there are different kinds of investments that should be sought for. There are enough of specialized supporters providing funding consultancy to social enterprises. That's something that is changing because it's a financial market, and it should be continuously followed. And I would also recommend the support, to ask for support for that. Are there private social impact investors active in supporting social enterprises? I really think that we should all think more about investors than donors in the future period. And as NGOs, we are very much dependent and used to donor support and to grants. But if we want to make a step further of that and be one day a successful social enterprise, we usually need to have diversified sources of funding. It means loans, it means equity. It can vary from a few financial instruments are available, but grants are not usually giving us enough flexibility. You know how projects are lasting for 3 years and they're just like that, and you have the same budget lines, but a lot can change in 3 years, and this COVID pandemic situation demonstrated it to the worst. Sorry, I didn't want to mention COVID again. It was enough. Decision makers and creators of policy framework are successfully reaching to general public and potential funding providers to support social enterprises. This is really a question of public support. It's not enough to bring a strategy or a law that will define the sector. We need the real commitment from the public sector that they are supporting us, supporting NGO world, and supporting social enterprises. And we can have many good examples in the European Union. There are those countries that we call them social countries. So there are a lot of examples, and a lot of that can be shared and learned within European Union for sure. Public funds are used directly and in partnership to support financial sustainability of social economy actors. I put it like this because I want to explain you a little bit difference about funds and funding. So someone can support you directly, or someone can support you directly, one by one, face to face, or someone can support you as a part of wider partnership. Someone can support you financially, like really, really short term, and someone can be your supporter for like institutional supporter that will go somewhere with you for 5 or 10 years, so more long term. So the different kind of financial support that you can reach, and there are a lot of experience and learning in that topic, but it's really life story, so it's changing. It's important to keep up with trends, and this is especially easy with young people, because young people, as all studies are showing, and we all know it, are following the trends the best. So I think that this market is made for you more. Public funds are used to protect or to support social economy actors. This should be one question that maybe gives you a floor or gives you a platform to open a dialogue with a public supporter that you targeted about the social issue you want to change or you want to tackle. So there are a lot of space, different instruments, and as you know, calls and support measures are thematic mostly. So usually there is a space for dialogue with public funds, and what proved to be very effective are local funds in the cities, in municipalities, even counties. It depends, but it's important to find your business partner there. Access to market is something that actually falls within non-financial support, and it must be probably the most important component of the non-financial support. So how are we assessing our situation in that field is that we are asking ourselves, are social enterprises actively using new technologies to access wider or new markets? So we will see if we have a space to grow, if we have a need to tackle digitalization or some other aspect of our work. Social enterprises have at their disposal instruments to access public markets. Is there anything like a place to learn from there? Non-profits, meaning NGOs, and social enterprises are seeking for receiving support in preparing calls for proposals. If we are still using grants, we might need some support. And I think that here there are enough organizations or foundations who are supporting organizations in this field, and there are a lot of knowledge in the field. So don't be afraid to reach to your older colleagues or organizations that you know for the support in this. These are social enterprises are innovative and successful in building partnership on the market. I'm a really strong believer in partnership building and networking, because everything we've done in that manner. Everything we have learned, especially on some, let's say, less developed parts of Europe, we learned from being partners to someone who has done it already, and being part of the network, which is based in Brussels and which gathers all the main players, so you can get so many information from that source. So we need to be very innovative, but when we are going to the market, we need even more partners on the business side. There are well-defined measures and instruments to support social enterprises in searching for new niche. That's also something that you should ask yourself, and it comes within the non-financial support and the mentoring. I mentioned there are a lot of good organizations here in Croatia and wider in the European Union, so people can actually. What's not the best about it? My advice would be for you to search for those who are doing it in their own mandate, mission, not for those who are doing it as a part of some project activity. So it happens when the project is ended, the support is ended also, but you need like a steady players in that field. in order to get more support and more knowledge. Skills and competencies, the third thing that would be important to assess, to go through as a questions for all of us when we are trying to be social enterprises from NPO world. Our innovative and tailor-made learning programs are available to NPOs and social enterprises. You're young people, most of you just get out of the college, so you know that they are not specialized subjects or specialized programs for social entrepreneurs, oftenly not even for entrepreneurs. Maybe that academia also concluded that entrepreneurial skills are not promoted, are not started early enough to be promoted within children, so we are maybe a little bit behind on this topic. That's why we need innovative programs, that's why we need programs like this to get to know each other and to see from whom we can get more of knowledge and skills competencies. Nowadays, for example, I will take this example is Croatia. Here in Croatia, academia is embracing social economy concept and promoting it among students and other members of the academia community and the researchers, which is really good thing. I'm looking forward to the first book on for students on social entrepreneurship, which will be published really soon by Faculty of Social Science. Faculty of Law here. Okay. Leadership is well known and adequately accepted and used concept. Does any of you took some time to speak about difference between management and leadership? Leadership is really important concept for developing social economy. Social economy exists because of the leadership of early stage. So when the sector is changing and when the markets are extremely demanding, an extremely difficult place to be, we need leaders. Leaders are those who are actually embracing some kind of a vision and leading us there. Managers are really needed, we cannot live without them, but they are actually implementing the vision or having more concrete and practical tasks and steps how to reach the vision of the leaders. And leadership among young people is really important topic. There are organizations who are tackling only that. So many different skills that can be developed from there. You should think about that. NPOs are using inputs from the business world. NGOs, NPOs, non-profit organizations, foundations are usually locked in their own rooms. And they don't see the need to cooperate with the business world so oftenly. That's one really disadvantage of working as an NGO, is that we rejected things because those are business. Maybe we were afraid that we cannot find our place there, or whatever, but the point is that we are not using enough inputs from that world, and I see it's something that we need to change, especially need to change as a part of developing skills and competencies of new social entrepreneurs. Support structures are where? Do they offer structured programs for business development and business operations support? We saw the scheme of ecosystem. We can even go with that same scheme into more details, but we need to find out who would support us and for what. So we said financial and non-financial. We need to map those two groups more deeply. Do they offer structured programs? That's what I said. Last thing about skills and competencies, as I mentioned before, networks are placed to learn what cannot be learned on university and from books. So networks and partnership are essential because a lot of good experience and basis for further development can be found in some other countries which started to implement social or to work on social entrepreneurship maybe 100 years before us. So we need to build more networks. My colleagues and I, most of the things we learn from from partnership building and networking, especially 10 years ago when it was, yeah, we didn't really have materials in the country. I was maybe thinking to ask you, but since we will just leave it for the end, just to ask ourselves then how we see the model of leading an NGO and turning an NGO into a social enterprise. NGOs of nowadays are mostly traditional organizations, meaning you have hierarchy, you have like who is responsible, you have who is doing what, you have division of roles and responsibilities, you have methods of communication, everything is just structured in a way up and down. What we are promoting here and what we are thinking, if we are going to the market, you need to be more agile. You need to get more horizontal with organizing your structure. You need to allow more design thinking, more people to be involved in your design thinking process and bringing decision must be more participative process. So it's called like something like agile transformation. And I really think it's needed for NGOs going into social entrepreneurship. How we do it, for example, you're a group of young people, your grassroots, your NGO, your institution. You want to develop a service or product for the market. You have like really basically these phases to follow. So you will just come from the society with the problem you want to solve. You will talk a lot with those who have that kind of problem. You will empathize. It means that you will develop persona, that you will develop empathy map, and there are tools for that for sure. But you will empathize enough to be bothered with it and to come up with solution. You will define your solution, and then you will involve all of your colleagues and all of those outside of the organization. When you will do design thinking, you will do a brainstorming, you will create something that you want to test. When you want to test, you go with a prototype on the market previously, so you're just testing that prototype. After, what you are going to do here is that you see that your model is functioning. So it's quite horizontal now. You will see that your model is functioning, so you will continue to grow, and you will continue to go to more markets, to more people, to more organizations. I don't know what's the product or the service, or you will see that this is not doing good, but if the need still is there, you will find to define and ideate again. These are main phases of development of the product or service on the market, which are really put in a sense of a few steps, but all of those steps are actually can be comprised of some important and very practical tools and methods that will lead you and won't let you go somewhere off your way. Sorry, this is the photo my colleagues are really fond of, and I wanted to just put it here to demonstrate how complicated it can be to lead an organization, to lead an agile organization who is actually covering the need and developing their stuff and doing all that has to be done from the transformation from the traditional to agile organization that can actually address all the challenges from the market and from the environment. But it looks like a really complicated process, but it has its steps. What you need to understand is that those processes are really complicated. It gets easier when you come to agile. That's my motivational message. So transformation is a hurtful process. Development is the worst thing that can happen to your traditional organization in that manner, but can also lead you to the best thing ever. So it is complicated, but it can get better if we do all these steps and validate products or services in the market as we wanted to do. Are there any comments or questions on this part? I would really like to hear some reflections if there was something useful or there is something unclear, so maybe we can talk more about it. We have still a few minutes.
It looks much more complicated when you see it on the screen than it is when you start to work on it.
Yes.
You can repeat it on the mic,
Oh.
sorry.
Oh.
For those online streaming.
Okay, so it actually looks much more complicated than it is in the practice when you are working on your project. So
Yes.
don't be afraid of it.
Yes, I
Just a
agree
hint
with
for
you.
all of us.
Yes, I agree with you because it's also very, when it's on paper and there are a lot of methodologies, a lot of goals that we want to address, it looks like a mess. But when we start doing it, yes, it's much more applicable, and when it's applicable, you see it and then it gets to its place. Yes, I agree with you completely. Maybe there are some questions about ecosystem, about actors here, and who wants to, if you, tell.
I just wanted to ask, maybe you can share a story, just to explain all these things you were talking about, to put it in an example.
For example, of what do you think?
Successful development of, I don't know if it's in the program for later, like Joyful Kitchen from start, how did they reach sustainability, let's say?
I have, but I don't have material with me today. I have a few examples that we are actually using to study and to present this very transformation process. And my favorite is on one, it would say institution. Is it institution as we translate it? It is like a built on as a partnership from public and private sector. It's a social service provider from Međimurje region. So it is for home care for elderly. So it went through transformation of the process of transformation, and they were like, you know, when you are establishing a social service provider, they mostly look at each other, especially with those who are providing service which is really prescribed and only transponded to another regions. So we, like from the basic model, we had transformation process applied, and it developed new services, it resulted in developing new services, in developing new projects, in developing internal capacities for what's going on now, for giving like a mentoring to and like academia for caregivers from their side, and mentoring after that. So they're like, and they diversified also their funding sources. So they came only from like ministry funding from the national budget, from there to more diversified funding, to we are speaking about investing now. So all the phases of their work, all aspects of their work, are just went through transformation. And I have specific, really good example on that. So maybe I can send you, if you send me an email or something, I can send you more about the transformation process, since we speak a lot about that. And yes, I agree, it's not easy when someone tells you, you're not vertical, you're horizontal, you're like, what does it mean to me? I mean, but it actually means a lot in everything, in communication, in methodologies, in stuff. And also there's a really good list of tools that can be used, so it's also important material. Sorry, is there any other question for now? Yes, please. Just wait for, please, for the mic hand.
Oh, sorry. Is there any kind of counseling for NGOs that want to go through the transition of becoming social businesses?
There are a lot of programs to support NGOs and to support social entrepreneurship among NGOs, but they are actually all in phases. So you have like a different incubation programs, which is for startups. You have incubation programs, you have academies of business skills, which is for me something important for people who are going from NPO world to business world. They are different, so again, it can be thematic. There are different hubs and incubation programs that support, for example, technology, that support a green project, that support women employment. It depends where you, so they are all part of the ecosystem. So that's why you just start from those bubbles and go more deeply into those who would support your idea. That's why it's important to speak with all levels, with public institutions, with funding, with supporters who are not funding but are giving support of that kind. And there is a lot of things in the market. I think for country like Croatia, I'm really satisfied with the number of programs. Of course, there is always a need, but there are really good programs out there.
Thank you.
Just go through some mapping activities and try to define for the first thing you define what you want to get from your mapping activities. And after that, you just make a list of investors or donors or supporters who are, you know, sharing, communicating similar something that you want to tackle in the society. So you're trying to mix your message, your problem with their communication. And that's how you will reach someone who will want to go into change with you. Any more questions for now? Yes.
Basically, most of the successful stories you were saying, for example, we are NGO, but we are already now we have diverse financial sources. We are not only project-based, we also have our own income. And then I'm thinking, if we would want to increase this amount of resources, that if we want to become more sustainable, then the step would be to find, as you were saying before, a funding, and specifically define a goal, like what is the change we want to see in a society. I'm thinking, just where is this moment when it happens? Okay, now we are social entrepreneurs.
But I understand you are NGO who is having some kind of economic activity, no?
Yes, we have some incomes. We have some services that we are selling. We are not only project-based.
Okay.
We also have some services that are bringing us income.
So where you're going to go, or where you want to go, actually depends on your business model. If you are going to open a new entity, to do only economic activity and to invest the profit into your non-profit, or you want to, for example, stay in this manner and build a social enterprise like that, because we actually, NGOs who are conducting economic activity are also considered to be social enterprises as a wider definition from European Union covers it. So, I mean, here in Croatia, we don't have a register and a status from the government, so we are just speaking about all of those. I mean, there is something going on now which is called European Social Enterprise Monitor, and Croatian NGOs who are conducting economic activity are recognized. They can fulfill it like social enterprises. But it depends on what's your actually strategy for development and business model you have in your organization. So are you going to grow through new projects and products, or are you going to keep it all in your non-profit? It depends if they are somehow connected, so it's easier. Or you just want, for example, ACT Group choose to establish different new entities who will deal with social problems, empower them enough, and then come to the phase where they're going to literally buy themselves, by workers, by employees of that social enterprise. So it was a model because it was too much for the structure to deal with all those different topics. But it depends actually how much connected they are and where your strategy is going to lead you. I mean, I'm always a fan of establishing social enterprise because we can always learn something from new structure, and it will be our structure, our partner. So that would be, depends on business model is my final say. Thank you. No more questions? Yes, no? No. Okay. Okay, and then it's time to make some conclusions. As we can all conclude, we will all conclude something after this, but I prepared 5 of them for you to, I don't know, try to get you thinking about those when you go home after, or maybe we can open a conversation after this event. So a diversification of funding sources and revenue is key to increasing financial sustainability of the social enterprise. We understood that we cannot rely on only one source of funding. Trainings and mentoring aimed at improving social leadership competencies of entrepreneurs that contribute to organizational resilience. So we need trainings and mentoring. I'm really, I cannot say this, repeat this enough, especially with young people, because it's quite needed. The triple balance approach in the social entrepreneurship ecosystem, and we saw the triple balance approach is that we need economy, we need environment, and we need social goals from the beginning. So that approach is really much what is the essence of the system, and in order to address all the challenges, you need strong partnership and specific tailor-made support to take you there. Partnering with other stakeholders in supporting social enterprises can contribute to resource sharing and mobilization. Providing support to social enterprises requires a long-term approach and integration of impact and support organization support models. What I wanted to stress about the last one is that when you are searching for supporters, for financial, non-financial supporters, you need those who have a vision or mission that is similar to yours. You don't necessarily need those who will have like two good programs who are project-based. You need longer-term partnerships so we can all learn from each other, and we, for example, as a support organization, can one day have additional program because of joint cooperation and that support more people from the system. So long-term approach and integration is needed. We see that this is giving some results and giving some effects in the society. More and more investors are now going to social. So, I mean, until recently we didn't have social investors. As we remember now, we have huge funds who want to support this system, but as they are developing, we have to develop more and be someone who can be actually a reliable, accountable actor on the market. So that's all from me today. Behind on my story, there are a few things I think are maybe important for you to take home and maybe to understand something deeper, or maybe to find more material if you thought something is interesting. So European Social Enterprise Monitor, I love it. It will give us the whole overview of the sector and help us get better policies, more inclusive policies that will regulate social entrepreneurship. In general, it is implemented in 10 countries in European Union so far. Croatia is one of them. I'm really excited about the results. This is one tool developed by European Commission and OSCE. It is really, it's a good tool, good, let's say, game that you can organize with you and your colleagues to find where are you in your system, in your ecosystem, and how are your policies regulating that ecosystem. Maybe it's something that you would actually have some benefit going through. It can last around 1 or 2 hours. It depends on the discussion, but I recommend trying it. One super thing coming from the European Commission, European Union, as I told you, social investors are there now. So we have EU Innovative Fund. It is EU Social Impact Innovation Fund, I think so, but this is the link and we can share it with you. So on that link there is an information. This fund released the first call, and so far 60 social enterprises are supported. It's really new thing. It came out, it was closed in November this year, so, and they're planning to invest more and more sources in social enterprises. The last information from the Commission was that they're going to invest more in digitalization and green economy. ACT Grupe is one of the, as OASA colleagues here, one of the supporters, and we are all, I guess, when I speak in both of our organizations, when I say that we are hoping to cooperate more and partner with all of you in the future, I guess, for OASA to continue. So thank you very much. This is my contact. If someone wants to ask me something, you can feel free to use this email address or phone number. As I said at the beginning, I will take it as a compliment.
Live streaming, looking at this from the Joyful Leadership community. So the social entrepreneurship, like Andrea was saying, is combining those three aspects of the planet, profit and finances. And what we are doing here is we are trying to help young people to get the right idea and how to show them how to come to the success to start their enterprise. So ASA specifically, what it does is that it goes through the process of understanding ourselves, developing some basic skills, what is necessary for the social entrepreneurs, and developing the business idea. So we are doing the pre-incubation process, and we are then connecting with the partners, with the others who are doing the incubators, who are helping them, helping the participants to develop that idea to the full extent. So, so this is how it looked like. So we had the workshop. This is from the first group. We had also lots of non-formal educations. Materials, and of course what we will be doing now in the end is that we will be giving some certifications for those ones who are here. So this is about social entrepreneurship, what we are doing, this pre-incubation phase. I will not speak too much about this. I wanted just to also mention if some of you who are not who were not attending it, that you can join in the future groups which will be happening next year. So we do it occasionally. What you can all join also, and this program was live streamed on the Joyful Leadership community. So the Joyful Leadership is a program teaching young people to become leaders. So it's very much connected with the entrepreneurship. And this Joyful Leadership is based on the values of social entrepreneurship. So it means that those ones who want to benefit the world and who want to make a positive change. So we have developed it under the Erasmus Plus program. For it was a couple of years work on it, and it was developed with the experts like Petar Turčinović, like Sabina Morezini, host Zoltan, and little me. So we were working on it. It's breaking. It was also for you a little bit breaking. Huh? So we were working on this. It was like a really long time to be developing. And we made it in a very practical example of a tree with parts that are connected to the tree, which means the branches, the roots, the trunk, the branches, the leaves and the fruits. So all the processes necessary for one to become a leader. So it's developing the values, becoming strong and developing self-management, learning how to work with the others, like branches extend to each other, learn how different strategies, how to face challenges in the leaves, which are changing every season, and also how to develop the fruits, which leader wants to do that. So you can see all of that. You have it, everything you have online. We have developed the manual, the online course, and the trainings for the best participants of the online course. So you have the leaflets, and you can join it. And for the participants who were attending the Bridge to Success, this is a natural next step to empower you to become a real social entrepreneurs and real leaders. So this is how it looked. So we had education, second training was happening here for the best participants. This is really tricky, I need to press it 10 times to change the slide. And we had a lot of simulations, small group workshops, and also outdoor activities for the trainings that were happening. So I'm really warmly welcoming to you all to all of this, and to join and use the opportunity to develop yourself as leaders and to join the international community. We have 9,000 people attending the Joyful Leadership course and experience, and on the website, Joyful Leader, you can find everything that we are offering, the online courses, the additional online courses that will be coming, and now we are just reboosting the whole Joyful Leadership, so you will be able to take a lot of new opportunities that we are going to be working on and developing very soon. So thank you very much.